Anthony, it's F1 Express from China. We are mainly Formula One people. Can you explain to those Formula One people what endurance racing is like?
It's LMP racing is quite similar to Formula One in its performance, especially these days with the hybrid technology that we have, and in the LMP1 class, it's very representative to road car technology, and also fairly in line with Formula One as well, with the hybrid power units that they have there. So, in that respect, it's quite similar, but yeah, also the way the car behaves, the way it handles, and the speed. But then obviously it's a bigger car, it's heavier, there's slightly less power in general, and the lap times are around about anywhere from 7 to 12 seconds a lap slower on an ultimate lap time. In the race trim, the car is probably 6 or 7 seconds away per lap. The difference between endurance racing, obviously, the clue is in the title. It's an endurance, not a sprint. But it doesn't mean that the general conception is that the endurance racers don't drive 100%, but we do. It's just that the machine has to go through an endurance process, not the driver. We're driving flat out every lap, and obviously share the car with 2 other drivers most of the time. In our car for this race, it's just 2 drivers. We have the big race in the year of the 24 hours of Le Mans, and then every other race is 6 hours in the championship. So it's a lot of action, a lot of different classes that we have to race against. So it would be the equivalent of Formula One racing GP2 and Formula 3 on the same weekend, all in the same race. So it's a challenge for all of the drivers.
And also on the tyres subject, can you explain to those Formula One people how can you do 700 kilometers on one set of tyres? Is the tyre simply better, or are they harder, or are they better engineered, or somehow?
Well, again, that's an endurance, you know. So the key is to go as long as you can with your car, and the whole package that includes the tyres. So in Le Mans, we're covering over 5,000 kilometers in the race. So you want to have a tyre that can last as long as possible. So we do obviously have to sacrifice a bit of first lap performance for longevity. In Formula One, much more of a sprint. Also, the tyre that they have there is part of a show in terms of its degradation. It's tuned to basically degrade faster to spice up the show. But the spice that we have in our show is the length it goes on for, and the traffic situation as well.
Forgive me, but I rarely watch endurance racing in full length. The last time I did it was last year's Spa. I remember you did I forgot whether it was you or one of the Audis, did the fastest lap of the race on the second lap, which is effectively the first flying lap. People don't understand. People think you are avoiding curbs. You're not doing that now, right?
No, the cars are built to do a job. They're built to last 24 hours driving absolutely flat out. That's the challenge. So, you know, just like a Formula 1 car is built to drive a 2-hour race absolutely flat out, we do 24 hours flat out. So it's
avoiding curbs?
No.
Okay.
No, we're encouraged to use curbs. Anything it takes to win. You know, it's the same philosophy. You know, competition in any sport these days is too tight to afford to back off. The moment you start backing off, someone else wins. You allow someone else to win. So, yeah, the car is engineered to do a job, and that job is to be ragged by drivers like us.
For fans, this is a question from our readers, because they noticed that the 2 Toyotas in Le Mans has a significant, 1 second per lap. Lap time difference. Was that because you set up differently? You one car is set out to the outright win, another is for consistency. Why is that?
Between the 2 cars? No. Basically, the car number 8, our car, had a crash at the start of the race.
Never recovered.
No, we had a very damaged car. We had a lot of aerodynamic damage. Okay. The chassis was actually damaged. Okay. And so we had a big problem with our car. So when I first jumped in the car, it was making noises I'd never heard before, and I was sure.
Even though 18,000 kilometers
Yeah,
testing,
I was
never heard that.
Yeah, exactly. I was sure we weren't going to finish the race. When I jumped in the car for the first time,
Okay.
I mean, the brake pedal vibrated when you pressed it. There were sounds, metallic rattling sounds in the car that I'd never heard before, like I say. So if one car wasn't going to make it through to the end of the race, I was sure it'd be our car.
Okay.
And it did. It was the only car that had no problems, technically. So, I mean, it was incredible. And that was the difference with the two cars there in Le Mans, yeah, in terms of speed.
Explain us about braking, because you are harvesting loads of energy under braking under those LMP1 cars. Do you have to adjust your driving style accordingly, like lengthening the braking period or something?
Yeah,
like
we
that?
do, and it's, you say those LMP1 cars, but it's only our car that recovers everything from the brakes. We recover from all four wheels on the car. We have
How's
no
the front
turbo.
feel like? How's the front feeling?
Fine, just like an absolute conventional car.
Oh, really?
And this is obviously testament to Toyota's 15 years plus experience in hybrid technology, that you know, they know what they're doing when it comes to hybrid. So for us in the car, it feels just like a conventional car. We have no idea when we're driving the car that it's
So you don't
connected
feel
to.
the electric torque suddenly coming, like
No.
big boost. It's
We
very
have no
progressive.
transition. In year one, we could feel something.
Okay.
In 2012, we could feel a
So
transition.
it feels like a naturally aspirated petrol engine.
Oh no, you're talking about power delivery.
Yeah,
I'm
power
talking about
delivery.
braking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so sorry
So
for the
in terms of
confusion.
Power delivery, do you feel that electric torque?
Oh, of
suddenly
course.
coming?
Yeah. Well, it's half of our power.
Okay.
So we have around about 1,000 PS. So half of our power comes from electric,
Yeah.
and it's only there for a couple of seconds on each acceleration phase.
Oh, okay.
So
So
of
if
course,
boom, and then
yeah, we feel like it feels like someone pulls the handbrake when the boost is finishing. Yeah.
for this kind of thing always exists in motorsport about loopholes in the regulations. Explain to us what is the exact definition of flexible bodywork? Like some
I think you need
part
to-
of your car.
You're probably talking about Le Mans, where we were questioned, but obviously, you know, it passed all of the
So
all of the
it's
tests. The car was definitely legal. It passed all the tests. It was checked many times by the FIA, and you know, they don't mess around. They know what they're doing in terms of safety and performance. So yeah, you know, the car was 100% legal. I'm happy about that as a driver. And yeah, that's been proved by the FIA at the event. So, but flexible bodywork is it's always gonna be a grey area. Aerodynamics are massively important to modern day motorsport, and you know, it goes on in Formula One and, you know, any category of serious competitive motorsport. You're going to have that kind of grey area, but the target is to always have a legal car that can make it through the tests, and that's what we had in Le Mans and continue to do so through the rest of the year.
When you set out designing these LMP1 prototypes, do you design it around Le Mans or around the whole championship? Because Le Mans, in terms of circuit characteristic, is a lot different to here and Silverstone. Tracks like that, a lot of mid, low speed corners. Le Mans is all about high speed. So if you are given a chance to redesign the whole car for this kind of track, what kind of thing would you change? Shorter wheelbase, more downforce, something like that?
No, it's a good question, because it's very similar again in line with Formula One, in that they have Monza and they have Monaco, and they have two completely different aero packages for those two specific circuits, and we have the same. You know, we have different gear ratios, we have different aerodynamics. All of your validation of reliability is done for Le Mans.
Okay.
That's true. Because 24 hours is the biggest target we have for the year. So we actually go over that target in testing.
48 hours?
No, we tend to do anywhere from 32 to 36 hours in endurance testing. So for us drivers, the testing is actually more relentless than the race. Yeah. But it's a good question, because if we didn't do that, you would suffer for the rest of the championship. So if you would have a trade-off from the performance in Le Mans compared to the rest of the championship. So it's a bigger cost to do it that way, but you have to, because the rest of the competition do it.
Does turbocharge actually save fuel, in your opinion? Because Formula One is going to turbocharge. Everyone.
You're asking the wrong person. I'm not an engineer. I'm just a driver.
Okay,
My job's to just press the right pedal as long as possible and get to the end as quickly as possible.
It's kind of interesting. The whole industry is going towards turbocharging. Toyota remains on the natural aspirator, and performance-wise, you have the upper hand all the way through.
No, we didn't win Le Mans, so.
Well, I said performance-wise. How do you balance your duties? Because you are quite busy man. You are SkyPad operator. You are Mercedes simulator driver. You are factory Toyota driver. How do you balance?
A father of two.
Yeah. How do you do that?
That's the hardest job by miles, by the way. The father of two. Yeah. Okay. It's hard, but this is the racing is my biggest passion, and it's for me it's the most important job that I do, and it obviously helps me when I do my TV work, and also driving the simulator as well. So, but yeah, in terms of pure enjoyment and reward for effort, it's the racing is always I've done it since an 8-year-old kid. So for me, it's a way of life, and I couldn't imagine life without racing. And I do enjoy explaining Formula One and talking about Formula One in a simple context that people understand, and I really enjoy that. I'm still a big fan of the sport, but for me it's the racing that's my real passion.
For the critics of Formula One, because Formula One keep getting slow, especially in race stream, because they carry all the fuel on board, and I think this year's Bahrain 6 hours, your lap time, your fastest lap, is capable of keeping distance with the whole Formula One grid up until lap 10. How do you see Formula One being everything the very best in terms of investment, sponsorship, TV coverage, while not being in terms of performance, as sometimes not being the top of motorsport? Do you have opinions on that? Because LMP1 is definitely gaining exposure or attention from this hardcore fans, let's say.
It's been exciting to have Mark Webber join the series in the World Endurance this year, and also Porsche as well. Porsche, is a serious manufacturer. They've won Le Mans the most times out of any manufacturer, so that's big news that they decided to enter
next year, right?
Yeah, so it's big news that these manufacturers are joining the World Endurance instead of Formula One, but it's up to them to make that decision. And then I guess the real question is, does the pinnacle of motorsport have to be the fastest?
Okay. Yeah. That's also...
I don't know where to stand on that, because I see first-hand experience the level of technology that goes into Formula One, and the power units are ahead of everything in Formula One in terms of an efficient way to run an engine.
So compared to LMP1, you think...
I think there's probably still, I don't know exact figures, but I think the Formula One power units, and it hasn't been talked about enough, but they're pretty special.
Because
they're an incredible
numbers,
yeah.
They are not on the same level of LMP1 cars, but everyone says that the power
In terms of
unit,
efficiency, I think
I
think you're wrong.
The speed of regen and
No, I think you're wrong.
Yeah.
I think they are incredibly efficient,
Okay.
but obviously in Formula One it's very secretive as well.
Yeah. Until
yeah.
yesterday, we never know how the Mercedes power unit looked like.
Exactly. So Formula One is a very secretive world, and sometimes that it shoots itself in its own foot by being so secretive, because the fans can't get that close to it. The World Endurance, the fans can actually see and touch the cars and meet the drivers properly. They can walk around the paddock, but then we have less people watching. In terms of the pinnacle of motor racing, if it's about technology, if it's about the investment of where they spend their money, I still think Formula One is the pinnacle. And from a driver's point of view as well, it's only you against the rest of the best drivers in the world, in inverted commas. And that, for personal pride, it's a powerful thing to get to Formula One. For me, I think as a driver, it's still the ultimate. It's the ultimate challenge. But I think World Endurance is quickly closing up, and the level of tech that we have in our car in many ways matches Formula One.
Okay.
I think until this year, we were ahead in terms of technology. But now they've got power units similar to ours, with more investment, I think, pumped into it. It's the technology. Don't underestimate the technology of a Formula One car, and all of their frick systems that they had as well. I know they're removed now, but this stuff was very impressive.
I believe that many teams of LMP1 now also has that like brake pressure moving system. When you press the brakes for longer, it moves back. You still have some gadgets like very or they are already in Formula 1.
No, it's there in Formula 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question is the different thing about endurance racing is you have to share your cars with your teammates.
Yeah.
You said when you were teammates with Alexander Bird, simply you sitting in the car and him sitting in the car, there is a shift in weight balance. So do you have to compromise your ultimate setup for your teammates? Like,
it's funny, we were just talking about it there, the drivers. Yeah. Today out there I was talking about a very different balance to Alex. Okay. And although we don't share exactly the same car today, the setups were very similar. Okay. And you're compromised with many things as drivers in these cars. I'm compromised by my physical size. I have to have a very big sort of like booster seat that goes in, and I never fit the car properly. I'm always, I don't have any seat under my legs because my legs are dangling around because I'm reaching for the pedals. And but then on the flip side, I have the advantage of being lighter.
yes.
So it's like it's a different. But I have a lower centre of gravity than Alex, but I have a 0.6% rearward weight distribution shift from him, which is huge. If you made a 0.6% change on a car, you'd be exactly. So I've been struggling today with a bit of rear locking, a bit of corner entry instability on the rear, and Alex has had the complete opposite. And it's these kind of things that is always a compromise in endurance. Yeah.
Okay. I think we are
last question.
Last question. Can you tell a line to the Formula One fans why they should watch endurance racing?
The biggest thing, for me, is the fact that we're constantly risking our lives and
you literally did
the car and every inch of the way through the traffic. That's the real excitement for us, and that's where the races are really won or lost, through traffic. People in Formula 1, it's very pure in terms of lap time. In endurance racing, the lap time comes from how efficient you are through the traffic, and that is a massive risk. Every single car you overtake is a risk, and there's never a real sense of a margin of error. Okay. You see a gap, you live by your senses, and that's the pure fun for us.
Under the last question, a quick comment about Formula 1 nowadays. 2 teams went into administration in 1 week. You've been through that
with the Guri.
Yeah. Can you kind of contemplate how they're feeling? And it must be quite difficult for the drivers, for the families that within the team.
From a family point of view, it's awful. Awful timing coming up to Christmas and everything. It's I went through that myself with Super Guri, albeit earlier in the year. From a driver's point of view, it's awful as well. A really bad time in the season to lose your drive and sit there twiddling your thumbs with nothing to do. So it's from a personal point of view, it's devastating. It's awful. But from the industry and a sporting aspect, the focus is always at the front. You always commentate about the leaders, not the guys at the back. It's important to have people making their underdogs in a way. But on the other side, we've seen it before in Formula 1. It is tough. It's financially draining, and it's not the first time, and it definitely won't be the last time.